Hello again, internet friends, and welcome to the Physical Preparedness Group Classroom. If you're new to the Patreon and did not have a chance to watch the video last week, we talked about RIR, the Repetitions in Reserve Scale, and the Stimulus Recovery Adaptation Process. Understanding the concepts that we discussed in that video will be very important for you to understand the concepts that we talk about in this video. So if you didn't get a chance to already, I highly recommend that you go back and watch that video first. In today's discussion, we're going to be getting into the nuts and bolts of how to organize your strength training over a matter of a few months. And we're going to be doing that by taking a look at a concept called periodization. Periodization is a fairly technical term, and depending on who you ask, you might get a slightly different answer. So we're going to stick with a very simple working definition so that we can understand it and apply it to our training. Periodization as we know it today was first formed by sport coaches in the Soviet Union during the 1950s. There's lots of different ways you can apply periodization to your training, so today we're going to keep it very simple so that we don't get lost in a lot of academic theory. Because one, it's not going to be very helpful to you, and frankly, I'm not that deep in the science to be able to explain it at that level. So essentially what periodization is we're going to have certain periods of training, hence the name periodization, where we're going to focus on building certain athletic qualities. We might have a phase where we work on strength, we might have a phase where we work on speed, we might have a phase where we work on endurance. For our purposes of strength training, we're going to have a hypertrophy phase, a strength phase, and then a peaking phase. And ideally, we would organize these training phases in a way where they complement each other so that your hypertrophy phase increases your ability to be successful in your strength phase, and your strength phase increases your ability to perform in your peaking phase. The final purpose of periodization is to help you peak for competition so that you go into a competition as recovered as possible while maintaining the highest level of fitness possible. While most of us are not necessarily focused on competing at a competition, we're still going to do a small peaking phase so that we can have an effective testing period where we see how much strength we've gained. So now that we have a general idea of what periodization is, we're going to get into the weeds about how exactly to organize our training in a periodized fashion. In the first 6-week phase, we're going to focus on building muscle mass and increasing our work capacity. And in the second 6-week phase, we're going to take that increased muscle mass and improved work capacity, and we're going to use it to build our general strength. Once we've taken that new muscle mass and taught it how to produce more force, we're then going to go into a short 3-week peaking phase. That's where we're really going to teach our muscle mass and our central nervous system to produce as much force as possible, as quickly and as effectively as possible by handling near maximum loads. In the first 6-week phase, we're going to focus on building muscle mass and increasing work capacity, and we're going to do that by doing slightly higher reps than we normally would do in a strength phase. So I'm going to give you 2 progression options to take you through the first 6 weeks. The first option is to start week 1 with 5 sets of 6 reps on the squat, bench, and deadlift at an RIR 3. And each week, you're going to increase the amount of reps you do in each set by 1 to 2 reps, always keeping in mind that we want to try and maintain that RIR 3 intensity level. And the goal is that by week 6, you'll still be using the same amount of weight that you started with on week 1, but instead of only being able to do 5 sets of 6 reps with that weight, you can now do 5 sets of 10 to 12 reps with that weight. The second option is that you're going to complete 5 sets of 8 each week, but instead of looking to add reps, you're going to simply add 5 pounds to your working sets every week, keeping in mind that we still want to maintain that RIR 3 intensity level regardless of which repetition progression scheme you go with. Both these progression options are going to increase hypertrophy and work capacity, so it's really up to you to choose which one sounds more entertaining or more preferable for you. Once we have the first 6 weeks under our belt, then we're going to move into the second phase where we'll be building general strength. So we're going to be doing a little bit less reps, and we're going to be focusing more on increasing the weight on the bar. And you can use the last week of the first 6-week phase as your guide to how much weight you're going to use in this phase. So if you got done with the first 6-week phase and you completed 5 sets of 10 reps with 225 pounds, now that we're dropping the repetitions a little bit, we can probably start working with anywhere from 235 to 250 pounds. And keeping in mind that when you do select that weight, you want to make sure that you're maintaining that RIR3 intensity level. And so each week of this second phase, we're going to add weight, but we're going to slowly lower the reps so that you start out at a 5x5 and we end up doing 5 sets of 3. And so you can see between week 7 and 8, I added 10 pounds to the progression, but after that I only added 5. And that's because it's very common for you to come in the first week or second week and feel very strong and feel good, so you can add a little bit more weight. But as the weight gets heavier, you have to slow down the amount of weight that you're adding to the bar each week so that we can maintain that RIR3 intensity level. But since we're decreasing the amount of repetitions that we're going to be doing, a lot of you will be able to increase the weight by 10 pounds each week. It's really going to depend on your body and your individual circumstance. Once we've gotten our strength phase under our belt, then we get to move to the peaking phase where the weight's going to start to get real heavy. Since we ended the last week of our general strength phase by doing 5 sets of 3 with 250 pounds, I added only 5 pounds to the first week of this peaking phase in this example, because if we come in too hot, too fast, and we jump too much in weight, we're going to start failing repetitions, and that is a big no-no, especially this close to testing time. If we start failing repetitions this close to retesting, we're really taking away from our ability to hit a PR come week 16. I'll also notice that the RIR has changed. We're no longer operating at an RIR3 intensity level. Now we're bumping it up to RIR2 and RIR1. So in this 3-week period, when you get done with your sets, you should feel like, oh, I probably could have only done 1 or 2 more repetitions. And as you get closer to week 16, it should feel more like 1 repetition than 2. And we want you to get closer and closer to that failure line so that your body can begin to adjust to what it's going to feel like to go for that new personal record. We want your muscles and your central nervous system to be accustomed to the strain of that heavy weight and having to produce enough force to get that weight up. You're also going to notice that we're dropping the repetitions significantly, and that's because as we get closer to 100% of your maximum strength capabilities, we have to lower the volume so that we can practice lifting at that near maximum, near failure intensity level in anticipation of the retest week. And if we're doing more repetitions, then we by definition can't lift at that near maximum intensity. And then it's showtime. So let's talk about the details of our retest week, week 16. So this is the week where you're going to want to push it to the limit. This is the week where you're going to want to go to failure. But we want to do that intelligently so that we can find a balance between allowing our body to warm up, but not warming up so much with small jumps in weight that we pre-fatigue ourselves and we're not as fresh as we could be for that new PR attempt. The week before, you would have done 3 sets of 2 with 265 pounds in this example. And so you're going to go through your normal warm-up routine, whatever that is, 135 for 5, 185 for 5, 225 for 3, and so on. And then you're going to want to take a single at 265 pounds. Once you start getting above 85% of your 1-rep max, we want to be careful to find the balance between giving your body enough of a chance to warm up for that heavy load, but not taking such small jumps in the warm-up that we pre-fatigue ourselves for no reason and we take away from our ability to perform on the 1-rep max. The jumps are also going to be determined by how you feel that day. So if you're maybe not feeling that strong for whatever reason, you might take smaller jumps and aim for a smaller PR of 5 to 10 pounds. If you're feeling really good and everything's moving fast, you might take bigger 20, 25 pound jumps and you can then go for a 25, 30 pound PR. Something that I'd have you keep in mind when you go into this retest week and you're going for that new 1-rep max, it's better to make a small 5 or 10 pound PR than it is to go for a big 30, 40, or 50 pound PR and then miss it. That's kind of a aim small, miss small type of deal. If you guys are feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all the details that we've gone into today, that's okay. This is a concept that takes a lot of time to understand, and it takes even more time to be able to implement effectively into your training. So if you remember nothing else, try and remember this. Regardless of whether you pick 5 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 8 or 10 sets of 10, once you've chosen a repetition or set scheme that you like and that you're going to do, stick with that for 4 to 6 weeks and really give your body time to adapt and adjust to it, and give yourself a chance to get better at it. Whether you're adding 1 to 2 reps each week or you're adding 5 to 10 pounds each week, just give it a little time. 4 to 6 weeks is really all the time you need, and then you can move on to something else if you want. But that's going to do you a lot more good than just switching around repetitions and set schemes at random in a kind of unorganized fashion. But anyway, I want to get you out of here in 10 minutes. We're already past 10 minutes, so that's going to be it for this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about deload weeks and how to implement those into your periodization scheme. If you have any comments, suggestions, or concerns, please comment below. I read and respond to most of the comments. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week.